ברוב הצדקה ענני באמת ישעך. So we're going to begin with our first reading, Blessing for the Ancestors. And I'm really grateful to Victor Bradley and Hazel and Sabina, who is off camera, who are going to be reading. I'm going to screen share that. I'm going to turn the laptop around so you folks can see. Just start the screen share before you start, Victor.
Great.
Folks, see? All right.
All right. We ready?
We are.
Great. The sea swallows. Oh, blessing for our ancestors. The sea swallows our name, our clothing, our language. That is all we were allowed to take out of Egypt. It is exactly what we lost when we were taken from Africa. The sea swallowed our ancestors, names and language, the same way it swallowed Egyptian armies. We remember that we have lost.
May we be in right relation
With all beings, including the earth.
All right. How far back do our memories stretch? We are called in this moment to also remember the time before slavery, when we were free people, the children of Jacob, natives to the continent of Africa. In both stories, enslavement was not our natural condition, as we were free people long before we were enslaved. Oh, sorry. Longer than we were slaves. Our story did not start in slavery. We were Igbo and Yoruba and Wolof and Israelites. We were a free people before we were enslaved, and we will be free people again. Liberation lies in the future, but it is also in our past. Slavery was but one experience in the vast history of our peoples.
May we always retain ancestral memory.
Celebration is also asked of us today. Our joy is bound to that of our ancestors, and that it is fueled that fuels our collective future. We bring into this space our ancestors who finally got word of Lincoln's decree. After slavery 2.5 years longer than the law allowed, we are here to recreate their resilience and self-love. We are here to declare the freedom we have known before the seas, trading in terror, the honor of our ancestors. Share our stories and remember our history. We celebrate our liberation today and recreate a new future full of hope.
Our tradition tells us, Bechol dor v'dor chava Adam lerot et atmot kilu hu yitza Mitzrayim. In every generation, each person must see themselves as if they had come out of Mitzrayim, as though we ourselves are coming into liberation during this time. It is our duty to act as royalty, the royalty we are, as a profound act of resilience and radical choice.
May we continue to create liberation every day in every way. Thank you so much, Victor and Hazel and Sabina, for your moral support too. What a wonderful way to get us started. So now we're going to sing a song of celebration, Psalm 150 on page 231. And if you're on Zoom and you don't have all the words, you can sing along muted, but sing as loud as you like. You can participate fully and singing hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 El Bekocho, hallelujah, Birkia Uzo, hallelujah, Vigorota, hallelujah, care of good love, hallelujah, 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 but take a shofar, hallelujah, benevel the chinor, hallelujah, betofu machol, hallelujah, beminim beugav, hallelujah, 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 Betzilzalei Shama, hallelujah, Betzilzalei Trua, Kol Hanshama, Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. So now we're going to come together, all of us, all in the room and on Zoom. I want to welcome Calliope and Forbes. Great to see you guys. And we're going to turn to 247 and rise as you're able. So we call one another together, as we say, as a beloved community in this day of joyful celebration. And again, though you're on mute, please join in as actively and be present with us in this holy space. So we take our seats. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorech choshev, oseh shalom, uvorei et hakol. We turn to 268. We're going to read together below the line in the English our statement of renewal that comes right from these blessings of gratitude for the creation of light. Every day, creation is renewed. Wake up and see unfolding in the spreading light of dawn, the world and all it contains, coming into being, new, fresh, filled with divine goodness and love. Every day, creation is renewed, reflected in the great lights. We see a new day, one precious day, eternity in the Hebrew. Or chadash al Zion ta'ir, v'nizkachu lanu b'mera leoro, אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו במהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות. I'm going to ask Sherry and Nomi, you two, if you could share the next reading together as you turn on page 2 to the readings. It's about love and support, which is what precedes the Shema. And Sherry, why don't you and Nomi alternate paragraphs, and I'm going to share the screen so that you guys can read from this from the J. Fridge Haggadah, Juneteenth Haggadah. Okay.
Love and support. We must love and support each other, and for that love and support to have a meaning, it must be material as well as spiritual. The Torah says, and if your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you, they shall serve you 6 years, and in the 7th year you shall let them go free. When you send them out free, do not let them go empty-handed. Furnish them out of your flock, threshing floor, and that with which you have received as a blessing. Remember that you were enslaved in the land of Egypt. Your God redeemed you.
Black liberation is something that has been compromised again and again through actions monstrous and tiny, the incomprehensible violations we promise to never forget, and the endless limitations we all decide to ignore. Black liberation means that we commit to uprooting all of the oppressive systems that serve to dehumanize us, including, but not limited to, white supremacy works, patriarchy, capitalism, transphobia, ableism, adultism, colorism, the list goes on. We navigate through these systems every day, and they exist within us too, showing up as both internalized oppression and internalized privilege. In our commitment to Black liberation, we commit to do and be in a way that respects all Black lives, and we show up to support one another and center the most marginalized voices among us.
And so we ask each other to think about what it means into reparation, to take a small but challenging step toward accountability, allyship, and accomplishment. A step that also leads toward a bolder, more moral, more vibrant future for all Black people and beyond. Call on each other to continue to show up, to learn, advocate, break down, build up, imagine anew, and be right relationship to one another and to the communities that sustain us. We call on each other to lean into the Jewish values of rachamim, compassion, kavod, respect, ilah, community, and ahava, love.
Thank you, Sherry and Nomi. And we take that love, which is wrapped around the Shema. We think of the Shema as central, but Shema is wrapped in the words of love. First, that we recognize the love that surrounds us and that we can draw on at any moment when we open our hearts to it. And then when our hearts are open to share that love and to spread it and to approach others, whoever they are, with that open heart. And that will lead us into the Shema. If you turn to 275, we'll sing the Hebrew together. May our eyes be opened with the light of your Torah so that our hearts may be opened to acting through the mitzvot of love. V'ha'erinenu b'toratecha, v'dabek libenu b'mitzvotecha, v'yachid levavenu, v'ahava u'yira et shemecha, lo nevu לא ניכלם, לא ניכשל, לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלה, סלה, סלה באמת, להודות לך וליחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שם ישמעון ואהבתו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Turning to 291 as we skip through. Anyone feels like davening on their own, please do. Micha Mocha. Micha Mocha is the ultimate celebration of liberation. It is the song where you pause and recognize what you have just endured, what river you have crossed, what obstacle you faced and found a way to get around it or through it or over it, to transcend the liberation, transcend the feelings of oppression, and lift up the joy. And that's what I'm feeling today, this sense that you have to hold the joy and also acknowledge what you've been through and what still exists so that we have the hope to continue. That's the essence of Moses and Miriam's song when they crossed the sea. So I'm going to invite you to join with me, 291, and then we'll daven the Amidah, which will begin on 295. And just note that before we get to the end of the page, I'll indicate when it's time for us to stand so that we can offer the prayer that arises in our hearts, so that we can find time to connect in this prayer time of the Amidah. Tilot le'el baruch u'mborach, Moshe Miriam uvnei Israel chanu shira, b'simcha rabba ve'amru kulam, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, oseh pelet, שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדה חינומך יהודה וישראל, Go Aleinu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, Gaal Yisrael. Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Agite Ilatecha. Open my lips, beloved one, let my mouth declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot U'Mevii Gula Livnei B'neihem L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Uzer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Rav L'Hoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayek Kol Chai B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim B'Rofeh Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Ahar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Memit Umekayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'emanat halachayot kol chai, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh kol chai. 303. Mekadesh et Kabbalah, Hashem Shamati Shivata Mishpen Paro, Kakatu Bayat Biasa, Bekara Zel Zel Be'amar, Kadosh Kadosh Kadosh, Adonai Tzvaot, Lo Kol Haaretz Kvodo. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משרים קול, מתנשאים ומצרפים, לעומתה ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני, ממקומו. 305. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כמחכים אנחנו לך. Ma'atatim b'tzion, v'karam b'yameinu, v'tishon, tikadash, v'tikadash, v'tov Yerushalayim ircha, v'dor v'ador, v'lenetzach v'tzakim, v'elu tirecha, Ma'alecha ha'adamar ha'amur b'shirei kuzecha yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohayim Tzion l'dor v'dor Hallelujah. L'dor v'dor, dor v'dor, dor v'dor, nagigod lecha. L'dor v'dor, dor v'dor, dor v'dor, nagigod lecha. U'lenetzach netzakim, u'lenetzach netzakim, Krushata, Krushata, Na'atish. V'shivach Eloheinu, v'yitinu lo yamush, le'olam le'olam v'amen. Ki el melech kadosh kadosh ata, Yes. Ose shalom imroma, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, Amen. Yeah, la 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 la. Yeah, la 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 la. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Uya'ase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru Amen. Now we're ready to receive Torah, and it's going to be a very brief reading, the sort of the greatest hits of B'Ha'alotcha is what we're going to do. And I'm going to put on the screen the reading, and also in your packet is the reading. So if you want to pick up the Chumash from in front of you, you may, but it's right here. And before we start, there will be 2 aliyot. So Debbie Rosenblatt, you read Torah regularly, but you haven't had an aliyah. So can we give you that first aliyah? Thank you. And we have a special guest with us, Rabbi Carol Glass. And I don't know if the 2 of you want to come up, or you want to come up for the second aliyah. Would you do us that honor? Thank you. Okay. Raquel, would you do Hagba for us today? Yeah, you can do it. I know you can do it. Sherry, would you join her with Galila? Would you help Raquel with rapping? And Henry, you'll still be our gabbai. So we simply, we have a couple of honors for those who would like, one to carry the Torah and one to open the ark. So. Do you want to open the ark? That'd be great, Nomi. And who would like to carry a Torah? It's a great honor. All right, Michaela, I think it's going to fall to you. Michaela is another guest or organizer from Trua, and her partner James is here. We'll show you exactly what to do. Okay. All right. So we're gonna go up to the bima. So I'll need Michaela and Nomi to come up. All right. We're on 383.
You gonna come up, Henry? Sure. All right, so you can help Michaela, let her know. Your arm's okay to take the turn? Because I can do it. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, oh, yeah.
The doctor told me not to do that.
No, I'll do it. Hey, come on, Elohim Adonai, Vekasaka, Malchutaka, Malchut Kol Olamim, Omer Shaltaka, B'chol Dor, Ador, Adonai Bethlech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Yimlach, Melach Haaretz, Adonai Osamo Yiten, Adonai Yavare, et Amor Shalom, Agarachamim, Ketiva Virzonka, et Sion, Tivnechot, Yerushalayim, Tivnechot, Yerushalayim, Ibecha, Levavata, Melech El Ram Benisa, Adon Olam, Vayim Saharon, Vayomer Moshe, Uma Adonai, V'yatutsu Evecha, V'yanutsu Misanecha, Mipanecha, Imitzion, Teisei Torah, Imitzion, Teisei Torah, U'Adonai, Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Amo Yisrael, As we stand before the open ark and we wait to open the words of Torah, we pray that we may receive in this moment a sense of faith and trust that we can take the words of Torah into our hearts and into our lives so that together we can fulfill the divine purpose and the yearnings of our soul for goodness, for life, and for shalom, for peace. Israel, the child will find the Islam. From 393, please repeat after me, including you on Zoom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu,
Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Eloheinu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonai Kadosh.
Gadol Adonai Yitzchak Uneromema Shemo Yachdav Le'Adonai והנצח וההוד כי כל בשמיים ובארץ כי כל בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש רוממו רוממו Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu l'adam raglav kadoshu romamu romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu l'hakodsho Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Take our seats. We'll take our seats. A quick introduction to what we're reading. We have 3 texts. We have 2 from the Torah reading, and then I'll add a text from our Haftorah reading. And these texts offer 3 questions specifically for today. The first text asks the question, where does our power come from? Where does our power come from? And that text is a text that we actually repeat every time we have a Torah service. That when the Torah set out, when the ark moved, then there was this prayer that was offered that God be with the people as they went forward. And when they rested, then God was present with them. And that's a reminder to all of us as we started the service by talking about blessing our ancestors and bringing our ancestors with us, that our power comes from what we carry. We need to remember what it is we carry and to be mindful of what others are carrying. And then when we share each other's burdens, we take responsibility for each other. The Torah that is in the ark, that is at the heart of who we are, brings us together as a community and becomes the source of our curiosity and our questions. And through that, we gain the power to participate in shaping Torah to our current reality. The second question is a question that I actually heard from Senator Jo Comerford when she was giving a speech on the floor of the Senate on Thursday regarding this moratorium. And she read a passage from 150 years ago, 1872, from the Senate, before they actually built the women's prison in Framingham. And the question that was raised was, we have this problem. What is there to do? Now, in our Torah reading, God asked that same question. Miriam is stricken with a skin disease. And so she is, she's going to be set out of the camp and quarantined for 7 days. And Moses and Aaron, her brothers, are crying. And God says, what is there to do? And God's asking us that question. That's the question of the day. What is there to do? What are the options, the alternatives to incarceration? And third, how do we remain resilient, perseverant, hopeful, and grounded? And that comes from the Haftorah
from the prophet Zechariah, who answers it by saying, it's not by might and it's not by power. It's through carrying the divine spirit with us. Now, I need to do one logistical thing before we start the Torah service. Brian, can you run to my office and get the charger? Because the laptop is running low and I'm going to need to charge it during the Torah service. So forgive me, folks on Zoom, we're going to make sure we don't lose you. And our first aliyah is on your sheets. Or if you want to look in the Chumash, it's on 826, Numbers 10, verses 33 to 36. And Henry will call Debbie up.
Okay. V'ya'azor v'yirgeh v'yashir l'chol hakosim bo v'nomar amen.
Amen.
Kol havu godel elhenu kabbalat Torah eker la'amod.
Devora bat Zina Belay.
Devar bat Zina v'lev le'aliyah harishonah. Baruch shenatan Torah li'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם, חיים כולכם היום.
Oh, yes.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirevanu la'avodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Take the other, you follow. Okay, take it. Amen. ויסעו מהר סיני דרך 3 ימים, וארון ברית אדוני נוסע לפניהם, דרך 3 ימים לתור להם מנוחה, וענן אדוני עליהם יומם, ונוסע מן המחנה. These are the familiar verses. Vayehi bin Sarah Aaron, Vayomer Moshe.
I don't really. I can't see one of them because they click or clack all these buttons.
V'anusim sanecha mipanecha, uvnocha yomar, shuv Adonai, rivavot al Bnei Yisrael.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Okay, we're going to pause for a second. So before this next aliyah, we're going to have a blessing Q and Shabbat. It's our custom to invite anyone who has a name to share, to do that after I share the names. In this very long list of people we know who are in need of healing at one time or another. Because it reminds us to lift them up, to say their names, not only to offer prayers of healing for them, but also to care for those who are caring about and caring for those who are ill. So as I look around the room and my gaze meets yours, please share a name. You have someone to have. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless and heal all who are ill. We have a Jan Alexander Katz, Elizabeth Rudit, Tivona Batsaga, Rivka Liga Batita, Dina Yochebet Batsama,
Lana bat Rachel, Gili bat Esther, Hayafega bat Shoshana, Serena Shapiro, Mashi Yochebed Chaya bat Sevilla, Rachel bat Malka, Yochebed Basi bat Sarah, Adam bat Sarah, Abel Rivka, Shalom ben Yehudit, Angela Graham, Alan Kozlowski, Joanne Delevance, David Holiday, Israel David and Rachel, Ray Lackey, Jay Ringstein, Yafa Leah Batkana, Phyllis Kaufman, Yosef Leah Batkana Bela, Allison Oatman, Maxine Flock, Margaret Hoffman, Robin Catcher, Ingrid Knapp, Judith Tooman, Jim Solomon, Naftali Gittelbat Leba Yehudit, Nikki Meadow, Aharon Ben Bracha Yosef, Claire Hertz, Pension Betnina, Fredo Batmaka, Gabriela Batberet, Aviva Deborah Batayet Tifa, Lucille Haskell, Cleo Batnatanya, Catherine Brooker, Lauren Tracy, Leo Chaba Batana David, Zohar Basara, Yael Batavram Bakava, Anthony Dinacola, Caroline Jane Fields, next star.
Who's the star? Matt Miller. Peter Calvert. Connie Forgot.
Jane McNally.
Connie Ward. Manny Thorne.
And on Zoom, anybody want to share a name?
Dodie Tobit.
You. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yimalei Rachum Yimalei Amlam Levam Barachotam, Hatzifam La'achiotam, may the Holy One surround them with divine compassion. Give them healing and full recovery. Give them strength and long life. Bishlach lehem b'kerer wash lehem min hashamayim refut hanefesh refut haguf, and speedless and complete healing the body and the spirit. Hashavaz Makari Dinamah.
So here we get a mode. About Karina by Thor. We have the Ashia.
I'm sorry. It's chapter 12, verses 10 to 16. Asher Kivatanu Lavabodato, Nataman Eskorato, Baruch Ata Adonai Elohim HaTorah. Amen.
והענן שר מעליו. והנה מרים צורעת כשלג, ויפן אהרון אל מרים, והנה צורעת. ויאמר אהרון אל משה, בי אדוני, אל נא תשב עלינו כדת, אשר נועלנו ואשר פתחנו. אל נא תקנא אשר בשאתו מערכת ליבו, ויאכל חצי בשרו. ויצעק משה אל אדוני לאמור, אל נא רפא נא לה. ויאמר אדוני אל משה, ויביך ירוק ירק בפניה, הלא תקלם 7 ימים, תיסגר 7 ימים מחוץ למחנה, ואחר תעשה. ותיסגר מרים מחוץ למחנה 7 ימים, והעם לא נסע עד תעשה מרים. ואחר נסעו העם בחצרות, ויחנו במדבר פרן.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan Torah v'emet v'chayei olam nachat b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu haTorah. Amen. Before we lift the Torah, let's just turn the page over, and my apologies for not sharing the screen. For the words of Zechariah, who is told, "Lo b'chayil v'lo b'koach ki im beruchi," not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. Amar Adonai Tzvaot, says the Holy One of Hosts. We rise, the Torah will be lifted. Over there. Or over here. Over here. She's done it before. She's done it. Torah, 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 Shiva Lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Shiva Lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Shiva Lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Shiva Lanu Moshe. Torah, going to return the Torah to the Aron, page 441. Naomi, will you open the ark again, please? It's time in the it's time in the Shalom, 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 shalom. It's a tree of life to those that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It's a tree of life to those that hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. Oh, we'll go your mind. 441. What you said out there. And as we sing, we note that above our ark, words from this prayer called Nativoteha Shalom, that all of the paths of these leaves that represent the tree of life, all the paths of Torah lead to peace. Torah tialtazohu.
Eitz Chaim Ila Machazikim Ba V'Tomchecha Meushar Dirachecha Darchei Noam V'chol Netivotecha Shalom. Ashivenu Adonai Elecha b'nashula Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu.
You got me? Oh, thank you, Sherry. Speaker. Oh, who was in the back?
That's my friend.
All right, then at the moment, what we're going to do is go to the third reading. Okay, we'll go to the third reading, which Michaela is going to read, but I understand. So waiting on our speaker. Going to share the screen. For those who might not have heard at the beginning, we are using excerpts from the Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, J-Fred Haggadah, Juneteenth Haggadah, and this is the third reading from that. And before we have our speaker, not always easy to find us. I know people who've ended up going off to Dorchester when they get to the circle at the Arboret. Who knows? Oh, I think she just arrived. All right. Stop the share. We'll have the reading in a moment. So I want to note that it was with the help of Michaela Kaplan and Trua, the rabbinic call for human rights. She's our local organizer, that we are bringing Sashi James here. And without any further ado, I'm going to invite Sherry to come up, introduce Sashi. We're going to count on the charge continuing. We're recording this. So Sherry, why don't you come up? Sashi, welcome. Glad you found us. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
I hope I didn't disturb the peace over there.
Oh,
I was ringing the bell.
Okay. I forgot to tell Moreno.
I told him right over, he just left. It was Bill, anyway.
All right, so if you want to take your mask off, that's great, and thank you.
Very pleased to welcome to our service today, Sashi James. She's the Director of Reimagining Communities for the organization Families for Justice as Healing, based in Roxbury, and the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, full name. Families for Justice as Healing has been leading the fight on Beacon Hill for passing a moratorium on new construction of any prisons and jails in Massachusetts, and in particular, proposed plans for a new women's prison. Sounds like that could be a good idea, a new women's prison, a better facility. That's not the direction Families for Justice as Healing wants to go in, and it has been working for quite some time to engage community and impacted communities and impacted individuals in creating alternatives to incarceration. What are the real services, interventions, structures that are needed to help women and girls and their communities thrive? So we've partnered today with the New England chapter of TRUA, which is the National Rabbinic Human Rights Organization, headed by our well-known Rabbi Tova Spitzer, and also staffed by Michaela Kaplan, who's the organizer, who was really helpful in organizing our program today. And I just want to say I was honored to walk with Families for Justice's Healing a year ago when they did a walk across the state to section by section, bringing attention to the issue of incarceration and the call for a moratorium on a new women's prison. So we're really thrilled, Sashi, to have you here with us. She'll be talking for about 15 minutes or so. We'll have some time for a few questions. Not enough time to cover all the issues, but for us to learn, and to learn also about opportunities for us to become engaged and volunteer and help with the ongoing campaign, which is going to go for some time. So Sashi, thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
your screen.
Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. I'm Sashi James with Families for Justice Healing. And I'm really excited to be here, and thank y'all for also supporting the prison and jail moratorium bill. It's so important that we have the support of the people, because the only way we can move forward is if we have the support of the people. So thank you for standing with us. Families for Justice Healing was founded inside of a prison inside of Danbury. One of those founders was actually my mom, Andrea James. At the time, my little brother was 5 months, and my mom did 18 months inside of a federal prison. When she went to prison, it was kind of normal for us because my dad had been to prison for a long time, and in our community, it's just a cycle of incarceration, and it's just kind of normal for us. However, when they put my mom inside of that prison, who was also a former attorney, a Northeastern graduate, she came out with this goal and this vision alongside of her sisters that were also incarcerated, with a vision to end incarceration of women and girls. I will say that at the table, when they talked about ending incarceration of women and girls, because overall there was a talk about ending mass incarceration, but nobody was talking about the women, there was about 100 years of incarceration at the table. So my mom came home, the firecracker that she is and will always be, and she has been on the ground since to end incarceration of women and girls. And so we're here, and I'm really excited to be here. Some of the things that we're doing: one, we're leading the prison and jail moratorium bill, which is, yes.
If you need to speak up.
Oh, okay.
We don't have a mic right now, but if you're sitting in the back and you can't hear, why don't you move up? We'll give you a moment to move up.
I'm sorry. I thought this is the first time I've been told I'm quiet.
Just want to make sure everybody's heading.
Okay, cool.
Both your ears.
It's okay. You can come closer. So we are leading the moratorium bill, and I think it's so funny that you mentioned the long walk, because I actually walked the whole entire walk. It was 90 miles, and it was long and hot, and I appreciated the walk, but the most important thing was that we educated people, and we gave people knowledge about just the goal of what we're trying to do in our community versus what a new prison or a jail would do to our community. So what we do right now is we also advocate for clemency. Clemency is a model, clemency is a power that the governor has and can immediately release women that are incarcerated at Framingham. Our vision of clemency is elderly women, women who have been incarcerated for 10 years or longer, women who are survived and punished, and women who are living with a sickness and or terminal illness. And so, you have a question? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to check in. Okay, cool. And so these women are the most vulnerable population inside of Framingham, and there's no reason why we can't create an exit plan, number one, for all the 137 women that are in Framingham, but at least if we started with the most vulnerable population, we can at least use that as a pilot project, which would be about 50 women, and then we can, scale on to the next batch of women that we would be able to provide an exit plan for. And that's through clemency. Of course, we have been advocating and pushing, but Governor Baker hasn't granted us any clemencies for women. But that's okay, because he's about to move forward, and then we'll be getting some clemency soon. and bulk clemency. So hopefully we can get a lot of women home. But then the most important project that we have right now is reimagining communities. Reimagining communities is about investing in communities. It's about empowering communities that are over-incarcerated and under-resourced. So we have a whole infrastructure that is really about building the people in the community. And also, I live in the most incarcerated corridor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And until my mom went to prison and came home, this firecracker lady saying that we were going to abolish prisons and jails, I didn't understand that, because I'm like, there's police on every corner. Like immediately when something goes wrong, you usually call 911. This is just a system that has always been in place for so long. And we've been trained to follow this system from a youth, so like, how can we go against it? But you don't realize the system is actually not doing anything for my people, and it's only causing harm. And so what we're doing is trying to create a structure that really supports the people that have only been harmed and oppressed, so that way we can get to a space where we at least know how to address transgressions, because conflicts are going to happen. It's inevitable to stop a conflict. But at least if we start to provide the resources to the people, we can begin to see a change, right? And we won't need a new prison or jail. And that's why we're always saying that if we built a new women's prison, we're only going to figure out how to fill that prison and jail, that prison up, instead of figuring out how do we keep women and girls from even entering prison, and what do they need at the start before they even got to that prison bed, period. And so I'm really excited about the reimagining communities. One of the things that we are launching right now is a hydroponic farm. Last summer, we tried to get a vendor. We tried to get vendors to go to a charter park, and all the vendors pulled out and said that they didn't feel safe going to that park, and they didn't feel like they were going to make enough money. So my mom, who's still a firecracker, was like, we're going to have to figure out how to get people vegetables in the community. So we ended up contracting with Concord Farm, and we gave out boxes of vegetables every week to the people in the community. And one, it was amazing to see how receptive people were to free vegetables. And then it was also amazing to see that people actually weren't just receptive, they actually came out on the corner and was like waiting for me to pull up. Like, can I have my box of vegetables? And then this is a joke, and I don't know if Mallory is watching, but she might, but they started calling me the vegetable lady. And so, but it really showed that our people need more, and our people need free vegetables, and it's okay to give free stuff. I mean, we're not given those opportunities. We spend money. I mean, the number one reason why women end up incarcerated in the first place is because they don't have access to affordable housing. And 82% of those women are mothers. So when you say a mother doesn't have access to affordable housing, you're now talking about the children. And if I'm a mom, I have a 3-year-old. Fortunately for everybody in this room, I didn't have to bring her today. But if I was put in a situation where I had to figure out how to provide housing for my child, I would do the most vulnerable. And we, as Massachusetts, we have the budget so that way women don't have to do the most vulnerable to provide housing for their children. And so that's why when we advocate to, I love you. Your expressions are so beautiful. But that's why when we advocate, we say, not only do we not need a new $50 million women's prison, not only do we not need to spend $520 million over the next 10 years on new prisons and jails as a whole, but we need to start taking that money and investing it in the communities that will be impacted by incarceration. And that happens to be from Dudley to Franklin Field, which sits right in the middle of the Commonwealth, is the most incarcerated corridor of the Commonwealth. And that happens to be the predominantly Black and Brown community. And that's not by accident. And so all we have, and I say all we have because I live on Crawford Street, is we have police cruisers, we have special officers taking notes, we have cameras, but nobody's asking us, what do we want? Like, what do you need so that way you're not causing harm to each other? Have you been healed? Like, have you been hurt? Like, do you need counseling? Maybe it's substance use. Maybe it's, anything. Maybe you just want to have a conversation with a person and you're just not getting that conversation. And so at Families for Justice Healing, I'm so excited. I don't know how I became the Reimagining Communities director, but I think it's because I was I was in the neighborhood all the time. And I like to say that transformative justice is not a movement, it's a lifestyle. And so I really believe that because I was politicized when my mom came home, I have a duty to now politicize the people in my community. And so even if I'm the crazy person, which I'm always the crazy person, I'm sitting on the corner with a table, which I do. I pull up a folding table and a folding chair, and I give out flyers right on Crawford Street in Humboldt. And I just give people knowledge, and I give people education, and I give people resources. And do you need food? Last week we did, I don't know if people follow us on social media, but last week we did a grand opening for the community pantry. And the community pantry is literally open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And folks can just come in and grab what they need. They have detergent, we have toilet paper, anything you need. And, you know, I will say, most of us think that like people need food, right? They're like, oh, let me just buy this person food. However, when we did the grand opening, we had about our first 15 family members. And the first thing that they grabbed was toilet paper, dish detergent, and laundry detergent. And if you think about it, all of those things are stuff that we can't buy with food stamps. And they're also hot ticket items. I mean, I cringe every time I go to buy detergent. I'm like, Dad, can I please have some of your detergent? Because I don't want to spend money on it. You know what I mean? And we're able to provide that to the community. And we have to continue to provide these things to the community because the community needs help. I mean, we are spinning wheels if we don't think that our community needs the resources. And then in addition to resources, we also have to do trainings. So we have participatory defense, we have transformative justice, we have a liberation project. The Liberation Project is my favorite because the Liberation Project is all about training and educating our people. I mean, when we talk about ending incarceration of women and girls, even when we have presentations or whoever we talk to, we also have to go back to the community that's impacted and say, hey, did you know that we're trying to end incarceration of women and girls here? Like, what do you need so that way you're not having any interactions with the police? And that's even harder than standing in front of a room with people who probably have never had interactions with the police because they've been so used to it. They're like, we can't stop having transgressions here. Like, are you crazy? Police are going to be here forever. And I'm like, no, this is not normal. This is not a normal lifestyle. Like, if you go to other communities, police don't follow you around. They don't hop out on you. Like, we can really get to a different space if we stand together in solidarity. And that's my favorite part. So I guess that's how I became the Reimagining Communities director. But yeah, so, and then in addition to that, what we're growing, I guess I'm excited about the whole Reimagining Communities infrastructure, but what we're growing is we're going to begin to train community members to be EMTs and paramedics. And what that means is that not every 911 call needs a police officer to come, but it just so happens that every time 911 call comes, more harm is done. Either somebody has to go to jail, a police report is written up, somebody's documented, you know, somebody might have a warrant or just something, instead of it just being a community member that could have responded to, maybe it was a domestic violence situation. However, what our plan is, instead of having random people respond, we're gonna have it be like 5-block radius. So you'll know your crisis team and your crisis team will know you. So if you call that hotline, you know, okay, Lisa is gonna go see Tyrone. Tyrone, how are you doing today? You having a rough day? Like, what do you need? How can I help you? So that way we don't have to, like, what's going on? And Tyrone will feel comfortable because he knows Lisa. You know, and it's not just a random person who has no experience from our community, who doesn't know how to even respond to our people, who it just won't lead to further harm. And we could really get to the root issue of why people are having these 911 calls and all these little episodes. And I will say, last year, through People Not Prisons, we had an amazing amazing research project, which was to figure out, everybody kept saying, oh, 911 calls have increased. That's what police say. They say, oh yeah, people are calling 911 every day. Meanwhile, I have never called 911. So I was like, oh, okay. But people call 911 in Roxbury. So through People Not Prisons, they were able to track where the phone calls are coming from. And as most of you know, Roxbury, Dorchester is being heavily gentrified. And it was literally the outskirts of people calling the police on the people in the community, but it wasn't the community members calling the police. And so that's an amazing experience, because everything that we do, they respond to police with us. You know what I mean? And it's like, they say that we want the police, yet we've never called the police. So it's like, how is this possible? And it shows that we can create an alternative to the system. And we know the system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And that was to oppress and only cause further harm. And that's all that it's doing. I mean, when my mom went to prison, my mom, she is very transparent with her crime that she went to prison for. And it was for a financial crime. But number one, I always say, had she not been a Black woman, she probably would have received probation. However, she received 18 months inside of her prison. My little brother was 5 months. She was still nursing my little brother when she went to prison. And she has I know most of y'all probably know Andrea, but she has never harmed a fly. I'm the one like, could you just get the fly out the house, please? And she has never done that. So this is why prisons and jails are fiscally irresponsible. We should just be looking at different ways that we can get to the issue, get to the root, how we can solve what is happening in our community without a prison and jail. And so a prison and jail is just gonna cause further harm for us. And so, I can go on about participatory defense, which is an amazing. Participatory defense is a component in reimagining communities. It's it's the bedrock of our organizing, because it actually brings people. So this is what it is. So we actually have community members work with other community members that have active cases. And obviously in this says the battery is running low. Is that okay?
I think that means we need to wrap it up.
Oh, okay. So I'm just gonna finish this off because it's so important. And this is the bedrock of our reimagining communities. So with participatory defense, we actually work with the person who has an open case, and then we figure out how we cannot have a mandatory minimum, because most people in Roxbury and Dorchester, when they get pulled over by the police usually charge them with mandatory minimums, so that way they can get jail time out of them. However, you can usually talk about an alternative way of wording it will be the same charge, but it will just be different wording, and it won't carry a mandatory minimum. And that's called time saved. And so through participatory defense, we're able to with our experience, able to get people to understand and advocate for themselves. Like I remember when I went to court, I had court too. I didn't know how to advocate for myself. My dad was in there, and I'm like, Dad, can you please tell this lawyer what to do for me? Like, I didn't know what to do. But through participatory defense, you're empowered and you have a community behind you. And when you go to court, you have a whole courtroom standing in your favor, because you're not alone. So it's not like you're gonna just sit here and get this mandatory minimum. You're gonna be able to go home to your family, because we all know 18 months sounds like it's 18 months. But if you're the primary caretaker of your household, most of our households are single head households anyway. So, you're collapsing a family on top of what it's already been destroyed in the first place.
Sashi, I just want to say, if there are right now, just get some idea if there's a call out for volunteer help.
Yes.
So you can follow up with that.
Yes. Okay, cool. Yes. So obviously we're in a weird place with the Senate right now, because they added a lot of language into our moratorium bill that we don't like. It was really bad. But we're working on it and trying to get it back to what we want for the moratorium bill. So what I'm suggesting is that people come to the town hall. We host a town hall every Monday at 6 o'clock, and it literally gives people plugins, whether they're on college campuses, whether they want to do canvassing, whether they want to do door knocking. And then if that's not your thing, you can also figure out if you want to come to the office, you can help with the pantry. We have a community pantry. We definitely need volunteers to help monitor the community pantry. And if that wasn't your thing, maybe you wanted to just donate, you can donate to the community pantry because we need all the donations that we can get for that.
Sashi,
Yeah.
you're amazing.
I would listen to you the whole rest of the day, but I have to plug in the computer.
Please.
So I'm going to do that, but we're going to keep talking. And I think, I wonder if Michaela, do you or Sherry want to come up and talk a little about lobbying too? Because we got some great suggestions about helping the Reimagining Communities effort. And we also can invite people to help with lobbying. So do you want to come up?
If people are interested in, but how many people I want to say, but I think, okay.
It would be great if you came up front, because then everybody can.
Okay. I'm very how many people here have ever spoken to the representative on the phone? Raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, we have Brian here, awesome. And I just want to say that is one of, especially, honestly, anyone should be talking to the representative, and it seems kind of scary, but I've done it recently for the first time, and it's one of the most effective ways to do this, because the DOC, the Department of Corrections, and everybody, like sheriffs, people advocating for these prison projects are talking with representatives every day. They're like the vast majority of folks, like across Massachusetts, do not support this project. That's like very apparent when you talk to people. They're just not talking to the representatives. So there's a lot of ways you should volunteer, but calling up your state rep and state senate, and I'm a resource for that, Sherry's a resource for that. If you want to like talk about what that looks like, is something that everyone here could feel empowered to do. Their offices are waiting for calls and keeping track of how many calls they get in support or not in support of legislation, including Senate President Spilka, who is definitely, things are about to change with the legislation, so that's what Sashi was saying, like, there's a lot up in the air the next few weeks, but calling your representative is super helpful. In the moratorium, the Monday town hall is a good place to learn more about that.
I would just say that we can, and I will, we can send out to the Temple Google group a sample script, a very short script that people could use to make calls to their state rep or the state senator. We've done that before, that way people can have a little bit of text to help them make a call, and that the town hall, it's a Zoom.
Sherry, can you come up here so people on Zoom can hear you, please?
Was just reminded by Sashi that you can also email your rep. I do want to say though, I feel like if there are questions for Sashi about this, I feel like
So we have
incredible
time
resource
for a
here.
couple
So
of questions.
if folks want to like ask questions, are you okay with that? Yeah. Okay.
No.
Why not?
Oh,
Why not?
Okay,
Go ahead.
Is that okay?
Okay, good. But just people should know, we will send out. I will send out email. People should look out for it, for script, for email or a phone call to your state rep when we find out what the key language is now.
Let me just check to make sure people who are following on Zoom, can you guys hear okay? Thumbs up? Great. Okay, so we're gonna have some questions, and if people have a question, if you come up, it would help so people on Zoom can hear your question. Just dealing with the tech here. Well, that doesn't, there might be one in there, but.
So thank you so much. Oh, yeah. We're just so grateful to have you here. Thank you. So just two questions. I think this is really going to sound silly, but when we do that communication with people, if we just want to remind people how to find out who their the right people to call, and you just, that sounds really basic, embarrassing. No, that's really the one. Thank you. Just curious, you know, when you're doing your work specifically in Rocks, right? I work with the Emts, which is right in the middle of where you're organizing. Do you find any encouraging signs from law enforcement or the city council, or even, I don't know, Sheriff Tompkins, or you find any sources of encouragement that people think that this is beneficial? I'm just wondering if there's any sense of hope in some of the folks who understandably seem so negative about it.
Yeah, I would say our Tanya Anderson, Rep. Tanya Anderson, we're just getting to know her more, and we were at a hearing together, and we were gonna go next, but when she went before us, we were like worried. Like, and she's from the community, and her husband is also incarcerated. And I mean, she just knew exactly, it felt like she knew what we were saying, and based off experience. Now, I mean, people can talk the talk. I don't know if she's gonna walk the walk, and I hope she does. I was taken back by all the beautiful things she said. But that's as far as that goes. But I will say, when we have our annual Christmas drive and we give out Christmas gifts to the community on Humboldt, which is where our pilot project is, the 22 blocks where we have a camper, a hydroponic farm, basic income guarantee, basic housing. The security guards that walk by, even though we're probably not supposed to be on the sidewalk with like a massive Santa Claus, they just they say, you know what, keep doing good, like the community needs it. And so I appreciate that, and it just is what it is, our community support. So it is hard to say the city is, for me, they are so used to police and jails that it's hard for them to even look in a different direction. But we gotta keep pushing.
We got one more question or comment.
You asked, how do I find out who my state senator, state representative are?
Yeah.
Where do I go? MA.org. You just put in your address. Where do I vote?
Oh, where do I go?
MA.
Massachusetts.
And I'll give the information to Sherry, the link, so you can find your rep, and we'll give a script to give you everything you need. And also like my email address and phone number if you want support in making that call or email. I definitely, emails are great, but if you're up for it, like making sure that your rep knows that you're engaged and calling is always really helpful. And it's a good skill to practice for future efforts, like following the lead of folks who are most affected by incarceration. There's going to be other legislative efforts as well.
And we'll follow up with people who are on Zoom also. We know who you are, and we'll make sure you get the information.
Sashi, I have one question. I don't know if you could share. I know that people have been doing outreach or canvassing in sorry. I know that people have been doing outreach in Quincy and another locale where volunteers have been trying to talk to people walking by and talk about the issue. Can you just share, some feedback of, what kind of feedback people get when they're approached on this issue?
Yeah, like Kayla said, I've never ran into a person that said we needed a new prison or a jail. And they all are like, you're right, we need to invest in communities. Like now is the time to try something different. And so, the last standout that I was at was actually at Dave's house. And I was literally on the corner of his house, and all his neighbors was like, he doesn't support the moratorium, we're calling him, And it was just amazing to see, because it just felt good to know that we just have to get out there. And so I appreciate when you were like, call your rep, she's right, call your rep, let them know that this conversation isn't existent, and that a prison in jail is not the way that we need to go. It's not going to get us to a progressive Massachusetts, and our numbers are small enough so we can actually end incarceration of women and girls in Massachusetts and be the lead. So we need y'all's support.
Thank you, Sashi. Thank you, Sherry.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah,
I
go
just want
ahead,
to say
Michaela.
that, like, the organizing that Families for Justice as Healing is doing is unprecedented. The fact that they got this language added in one session to, I mean, this has been a long fight, but they got it added to the bond bill, the infrastructure bond bill, and it passed in both houses, both sides of the house. It needs some work, the Senate language, but I just feel like the amount of people power they harness, it just shows that, like, when state reps are hearing from people, like, they do act, like, it's not that, like, before this law, people were saying they didn't even know about the street prison. Now people know about it. Now reps know people know about it, and stuff is changing really quickly. Like, it's really incredible organizing. Like, that's just very humble here. Like, they're doing it, like, the amount of change that, like, Families for Justice Healing and National Council have made is, like, absolutely incredible. So I just want to, like, I want everyone to really sit in that and to know that, like, we have the opportunity to support something, like, super important and, like, precedent setting for the whole country.
So to put a cap on what you both just said, the place we are in the process is the conference committee to reconcile the House version and the Senate version and to have a bill that's passed in both houses and then signed by the governor. So our job right now is to do everything we can to focus on the conference committee, on the president of the Senate, and to have our voices heard as allies in this effort, which has been enormous and is growing. And it's up to us to make sure it grows even further, to get the right language in and passed.
Right.
But thank you for the wonderful image you have of the kind of world we want to create, Sashi. We're going to close our service. So I'm going to have one more reading that Michaela, you were going to do. So you want to come up here and I'll put it on the screen.
Oh, and one thing is, you know, I know there's like 12, I don't know, 15 people here, but talk to your neighbors and tell your neighbors about what you heard today. Because your neighbors aren't here to hear what I said and they probably don't know about it. So it's so important to just let them talk to their neighbors and whatever. If you need a t-shirt, wear your t-shirt to the grocery store, you know, it's so important.
Spoken like a true organizer.
Yes.
So Sashi, please stay with us. We're going to have food after and we'll be able to talk further.
Well, I'm actually,
You have to go.
yeah. I have an event right now and Franklin Park.
Oh, okay. Well, let's at least, if you just wait till Michaela reads this reading and then you know.
I'm good.
Great, okay.
Okay, this is from Adrienne Marie Brown, who's a really wonderful author and activist. This is on page 3. Perhaps the #1 privilege of being an American is our narrative. We have a story that covers all of our wretched behavior, that makes us exceptional regardless of what we do. We've gotten lost in that story, that we are a benevolent, caring nation that really loves all our differences, our democracy, our global nature, that we were almost there, to that place where we can know we are better than them. As a nation, we quietly turned away from any numbers that seemed to make a counter-argument about what we were up to. The suicide rates of trans people, the number of bodies along our southern border, the percentage of Black people in prison, the pace at which people of color are murdered by the sea, the rising heat and ocean levels during this golden age of global warming, and so much more. What feels new is the unveiling. The heaviness is the increasing weight of the truth becoming undeniable as more people believe it. Right now, more and more of the truth of this country at this time is visible, left naked, made obvious. Now that it's plain to see that we are up against white supremacists, whose plan for survival seems to be eliminating the majority of us. We no longer have the luxury of pretending we can change their minds with logic, or survive the pendulum swing of universal survival issues made partisan. We have to be willing to engage in radical resistance and radical futuring. At every point in our history, we've used our imaginations to light a path to survival. We imagine freedom even when we have never experienced it, even after generations in bondage. We imagine safety even when it is an alien concept. We imagine solidarity even when we struggle to find evidence of it. This political moment is no different. The darkness of this time requires us to confront the truth more honestly, admit that our old strategies weren't working, and step up with bolder vision. We know we have value and we matter. Black lives matter because we are human beings who bleed the same color of blood as all life. We are the hands of God in the universe, and our power is infinite and immeasurable. We matter, and we know we will win.
Thank you, Kayla. So at this point, I'm going to invite our president, Raquel Rosenblatt, to say a few words, give a couple of announcements real quickly, and then we'll close with a call to action, which is the Aleinu. So Raquel, come on up. The battery is still not strong, so we're trying to get it in.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Shalom, everybody. I'm Raquel Rosenblatt. So wonderful to see you here, literally, physically, and on Zoom. Thank you so much, Sashi. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for just inspiring us, reminding us of what we need to do. It's a responsibility that everyone has, and that's really, really critical. And so thank you so much for being here. We're going to take action. You're going to see that happen. So I commit to that. We are entering the summer, which is a wonderful time of relaxation and sustenance and planning for the fall. And we will continue wonderful Shabbat observance in person on Zoom, mixing it up with Torah study as we have been doing all year long. So you can see all the details of that in the Temple newsletter. And there will be some upcoming communications. We've had some fantastic effort, as you all know, around the work to explore the next phase of leadership, rabbinic leadership, as we prepare for a search for our next rabbi. We had a very engaging process in the last week of a community conversation, getting fantastic feedback, questions from our congregation about how to pursue a search for a next rabbi, an interim rabbi or a permanent rabbi. And we've had more progress this past week that I will be reporting on, hopefully by tomorrow, in an email to the congregation. So please stay tuned for that. And that's a beginning of ongoing continued transparency, which I think is great. And I just want to say thank you so much to the folks on Zoom, the folks in this room. We had about a third of our congregation participate in this community conversation about the rabbinic transition. That's really great. Talk about organizing, right? But you know, in the little scale here in our temple community, that's really encouraging, and I'm grateful for that. And we will continue that level of engagement as we move forward. So I want to finish up. I know we're running short on technology capacity, but Shabbat Shalom, and thank you again so much for being here, and welcome to our community. You are now a part of the HBT family, and please know that.
That's for sure. Thank you, Raquel. So our call to action is on 445. Aleinu, it is up to us. It is up to us to get the word out. It is up to us to advocate, invite. We're not going to open the ark at this point. We will simply turn toward the ark for Aleinu. There are two versions. We make sure everyone can say whichever is their own. Aleinu, it's up to us. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, l'tekidu l'yotzer b'reshit. שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ככתוב בתורתך, וימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, היה אדוני, מלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד. We will turn to Kaddish Yatom in a moment and take our seats, and we have a couple of lists of people that we remember at this point. In our Black Lives Matter Yortzeit list, we remember that in the coming week, On June 19, 2018, Antoine Rose II was murdered by agents of white supremacy in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I also want to note that yesterday, June 17th, was the 7th anniversary of the white supremacist massacre in Charleston, South Carolina, when the Reverend Sharonda Coleman Singleton, Cynthia Graham Hunt, Susie J. Jackson, Ethel Lee Lenka, Reverend DePayne DePayne Vontrese Middleton, Dr. the Honorable Reverend Clementa Pinckney, Taiwan Zikibwe Diop Sanders, Reverend Daniel Lee Simmons Sr., and Myra Singleton Corls Thompson, all were murdered. We call out their names so that we remember their stories, so that we remember that they had lives and families and people who cared for them. Just as we remember people in our congregation who I'll name, who have families who are thinking of them as we recall their yahrzeit, the anniversary of their death in this coming week. Rochelle Burrows, Elsie Moritz, Rose Kaufman Circus, Jacob Kaufman, Sarah Pates, Lorraine Peskowitz, Arthur Podolsky, Sheila Harris, Bela Zeberman, Edward Horowitz, Janice Rose Circus, Janice Rose Circus, Benjamin Lewis Shapiro, Stanley Silverman, A. Harold Binder, Marietta Finn, Carol Haycock, Edward Swartz, Brian Stickler, and Lillian Weiner. And there are also those who are remembering those they have lost. We send our condolences to Judy Katz Levine, whose husband, Barry Levine, passed away this week, and she's still in Shiva. And Judy, we send our condolences to you, as we invite anyone who is saying Kaddish now in mourning to please rise. And everyone, if you turn to 451 and make the appropriate responses as we create a community of comfort around all of these lives who were lost. Yitgadal, V'Kadash, Shmei Rabbah, Velma, Divra, Yurtei, V'Yamlich, Malchutei, B'chayechon, V'Yomechon, Uv'Chaye, D'chol, Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Uv'Izman, Kari, V'Imru, Amen, Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mavarach, Le'olam of Olmei Almaya, Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, Shemam, V'Yitnaseh, V'Yitadar, V'Yitaleh, V'Yitalal, Shmei D'Kudisha, Brichu, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'miran v'alma v'imru, amen, yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen, oseh shalom b'mromav, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. May the Holy One grant peace to all who mourn, give comfort to all who are bereaved, and give power to all of their memories. We'll end with Olam Chesed Yibaneh, just in the Hebrew meaning, we're going to build a world based on love, based on a foundation of chesed, of caring unconditionally for all other humans as God cares for us. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to those on Zoom. We're all going to go outside where Moreno has set up Kiddush for us. When you see him, give him thanks for the help. Sorry you all can't join us for Kiddush. So wonderful to see your faces and have you present. And again, please forgive the technological issues. I hope you're able to hear. And I look forward to seeing you sometime soon. Shabbat Shalom. If you want to unmute and say Shabbat Shalom, that's cool.
Shabbat Shalom. Great to see all of y'all. Take care now.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.